Hi, welcome to Stitchy Dee Doodle. In this episode, I have 6 finished objects and 1 whip to share with you. If you'd like to join in on the fun, keep on watching. Hi, I am Gail, the creator behind this channel. I am also joined by my sidekick, Miko. You may hear her in the background on occasion sharing her commentary. If we make you smile or laugh or provide you any insightful information or inspiration, please consider giving us a like, subscribe, or share. Our first finished object is Oddish, and this little cutie is a Pokemon. This is a pattern by Amigurumis here on YouTube. For this little cutie, I use Llama baby cotton in colors L044 and L034. I used a 2.75 millimeter hook and 9 millimeter safety eyes. With a 3-weight yarn and a 2.75 millimeter hook, she came out to be approximately 4 inches tall. Now for this pattern in the tutorial, you'll notice that Oddish is kind of like a pastel purple, and I actually started it off in light purple, and then I googled the actual Pokemon, and it's not pastel purple. So I was upset I got this far and I was like, it's not even this color, it's more like a blueberry blue color. So then I switched to this, and I'm much more happy because majority of the photos, the Oddish looked more like a blueberry-ish kind of color. So I'm happier with this color. Also, in the original tutorial, the designer has these little slashes for cheeks. I opted not to include it because, well, the pictures didn't show cheeks, so I kept it plain. And then also for the original tutorial, it had a mouth like kind of like a cat. I think it looks like more like a W, but I kept the mouth simple because that's what the picture looked like. So it's more like a U-shaped mouth as opposed to a W-shaped mouth. But I'm really happy. It's really cute. Our next finished object is Hulk, Bruce Banner, when he gets mad. So this little guy is a Marvel superhero. This pattern is by Oddish, which is a YouTube tutorial. For this little cutie, I used Yarn Bee Sweet Minis in green and purple, and Ice Yarns Alara in black. I used a 2.75 millimeter hook and 9 millimeter safety eyes. With a 3-weight yarn and a 2.75 millimeter hook, he came out to be approximately 4.5 inches tall. So for this little guy, I worked him in one piece, and Odinka has you work it from the bottom up. So we start off with 2 separate legs, connect them together, and then continue onto the body. But I made the arms first so that I could work them into the body as one piece, and then I continued on to the head. For the hair, I did use one less, I made it 1 row shorter. And then I did find one minor error in the hair piece, in the hair wig. And it's when you're working these little, I don't know what you call them, these little ruffles at the bottom edge. So in her pattern, she specifies in row 17 of the hair, she says to slip stitch, chain 2, and then work 2 single crochets down the chain. But in order to work 2 single crochets down the chain, you actually need 3 chains. So it should read slip stitch, chain 3, then work your 2 single crochets down the chain, and then continue on according to pattern. So, and you'll see it in her pattern. Across the screen, it'll say chain 2, but when you watch her in her video, she'll actually be chaining 3. So just something for you to be aware if you're gonna follow her tutorial. But he came out super cute. I love him. Our next finished object is Joy. She is from the Disney movie Inside Out, and she's one of the moods. She's not even paying attention. So this is Joy. This pattern comes from Once Upon a Cheerio, and I think it's a website or a blog, and I'll have everything linked down below in the description box. So for this little cutie, I used Llama baby cotton in colors L043 and L034 and L045. I used a 2.75 millimeter hook and 9 millimeter safety eyes. With a 3-weight yarn and a 2.75 millimeter hook, she came out to be approximately 4.5 inches tall. So for Joy, I did find a small error. It's really minor, but for a beginner, it may be confusing. So I like to point errors out if I do come across them. For her wig, when you're working the 3rd strand, at the end of the row, it tells you how many stitches you should end up with. And the pattern specifies 6 stitches, but really it's 5 stitches because you're going to be crocheting 6 chains and then working back down the chain for 5 stitches total, not 6 as it specifies in the written pattern. So just be aware of that if you're going to be making Joy in the future. But I'm super happy. She's so cute. Oh, and also I did give her a pink smile based off of Nico's suggestion. She says she doesn't even look like Joy without the smile. Like she could be mad, she could be confused. Yeah. So yeah, I think giving her
without her smile.
Yeah, Joy, the smile really made her. I think it brought a special life to her face. The pattern didn't have it, but I looked up reference photos of her and she has pink lips. So I gave her a pink simple smile, and it just made her that much more joyful. So for Joy, I also used some embroidery floss. I used like a light blue embroidery floss to make they almost look like asterisks on her front and back side of her dress, and then also pink embroidery floss for her smile. And for her hair wig, I wasn't about to stitch it in, so what I did was I only stitched around the main circle here, and then I stopped. And for these individual wigs, I actually used a glue gun to attach them on, so I cheated. And then I just weaved in the rest of the end. So I stand corrected yet again. For Joy, I found more than one error, at least in my eyes. So in addition to the strand of hair that I spoke about earlier, when working on the hair, at the end of row 4, so I have 4 rows here. At the end of this circular round, which is round 4, you start working the strands of hair. And for each strand of hair, you work chains. So for instance, you're gonna work a chain of 9 and then work back down the chain for 8 single crochets and then slip stitch into the next open stitch on the circle. She has 14 different strands, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different strands and 24 stitches. So if you're working one strand and slipping into the next open stitch, it doesn't quite cover all of 24 stitches. So when I did that, I ended up with 10 unworked stitches. And she had a picture that showed a finished wig with all of the stitches worked into it. And I was like, what am I missing? So I went back to the pattern. I kept rereading each row to make sure that I wasn't missing something. So I figured out, okay, I still have 14 strands to work with, 24 stitches all the way around my circle. So I must be missing something, or maybe there's a missing section in the pattern. So what I did for the hair in order to distribute the strands of hair evenly all the way across 24 stitches was I worked one strand, and instead of working into the slip stitching into the next stitch, I skipped one. And so I did this, not every other, but I did one, and then I skipped a stitch. And then I worked two according to pattern, and then I skipped a stitch. And then I went back to one, and I skipped a stitch, worked two strands according to pattern, and then I skipped a stitch. One, skip, two, skip, one, skip, two, skip. I hope that makes sense, but because in her original pattern, she didn't have any skipped stitches. So in order to spread out these 14 strands of hair across 24 stitches, I had to inject skipped stitches somewhere to spread them out. So I did one strand, skip, two strands, skip, and I repeated that pattern. So one, skip, two, skip, one, skip, two, skip. I hope that helps. I also wanted to mention that the other week I had mentioned that I work my amigurumis bodies usually all in one piece, from the legs to the body to the arms and the head, all in one piece. But this one time that I happened to choose to work the pattern according to what the designer had written, I chose this one pattern. And it just so happens that this pattern is designed very differently from any other pattern that I've ever tried working the head separately from the body. So she has the head separate with a little bit of an extension. It almost looks like a head and a neck, kind of like a pencil topper if you can imagine that. And then the neck part you insert into the head, so it becomes like a cavity, if you will. And then the body is worked with an actual neck that you stuff, and it will be this small little neck section. And that neck section gets inserted into the cavity that you created within the head. And then you stitch those two pieces together. And I just thought that that was interesting as far as assembly. I've never had that before. I've never seen it in any other pattern. So I just thought I'd point that out in case you wanted to try something new and challenge yourself. Personally, I still rather work my usual method all in one piece. So it was an interesting method, I will say. So I just wanted to mention that. My next finished object is Scrump. So she is actually from Disney's Lilo and Stitch, and this is Lilo's doll that she actually handmade herself. So for this pattern, I used two separate YouTube tutorials, and the first one is from Odinka Wisa Nindi, and from her tutorial, I used the pattern to make her body all in one piece, worked from the bottom up. And then for the facial features and the head accessories, I actually used inspiration from Helen DIY Room. And for this pattern, I used Llama Baby Cotton in colors L044, L043, L030, and L036. I used a 2.75 millimeter hook And with a 3-weight yarn and a 2.75 millimeter hook, she came out to be approximately 5.5 inches tall. And this is in comparison to my hand. So for scrump, I used an 18 millimeter black button for this eye, and then a 20 millimeter blue button for this eye. And then this looks black on camera, but it's really blue. And this is a 11 millimeter blue button. For her collar, I actually did a little different from Helen DIY Room. She used, I think a ribbon, and she glued it on, but I actually just chained using the same pink yarn that I used for the ribbon up here, and I just fit it according to her neck, and then I sewed it in the back. And then I used Helen's pattern for the bow, but for the hair I didn't want to use she crocheted it to be like little tiny tubes, and I'm not a big fan of little tiny tubes. So what I did was I just chained for as tall of a hair strand that I wanted, and then I just worked single crochets down the chain. And so I made 3 separate hairs and attached them each to get this look. And let's see what else. I used embroidery floss, black embroidery floss for her mouth here, and yellow embroidery floss for her eye, X-stitched here. For the stitches here, this is the same pink yarn that I used here in the bow and also the collar. And this is a light blue Llama baby cotton yarn. And this is just some black embroidery floss to attach this button. And I'm super happy with how she came out. She looks just like so cute. Something about Scrump. She just looks so cute. And I love Lilo. Lilo has my heart. she's like I resonate with her because I have a really bad temper, and when I see her throw her tantrums on screen, I'm like, that is so me. My next finished object is Oscar the Grouch. So if you're from my generation or older even, you would know him from Sesame Street. I don't even know if kids watch it nowadays. Baby, do kids even watch this nowadays?
I don't think so. Unless they have like a new cartoon version, which I doubt.
That's very sad. All I hear about Sesame Street nowadays is Elmo and Zoe. But those are fairly new characters. But this little guy is from Fat Lady Crochet here on YouTube, and it's a free YouTube tutorial. So to make Oscar the Grouch, I used Premier Basics in the color Leaf, Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek in the color Silver Gray for the trash can, and I love this yarn in the colorway Coffee. I used a 3.5 millimeter hook, and with the 4-weight yarn and a 3.5 millimeter hook, he came out to be approximately 3.5 inches tall. And this is in comparison to my hand. So for his eyes, I used black and white felt. I hand cut it and I glued it on with Beacon's Fabri-Tac glue. I used black embroidery floss for his mouth. I also brushed him with the pet hair brush. And that's a technique where you can just brush acrylic yarn and it becomes like this fuzzy look. So right now up here is not as fuzzy because I guess I've been handling him, so it's not as fuzzy, but down here is what it'll come out to be really fuzzy. And he's been in his trash can for most of the time, but as a child plays with him more, it'll become more matted. But he's so super cute. And so for his trash can, I just made it to fit his little body here. So I made it as tall as I needed, and then for the very last row I just slip stitched all the way around, and it just gave it a nicer, cleaner look, I think. And it also gave it a little bit of a thick lip up here. Let's see. Also, the pattern did not include the trash lid, but I just thought that it would be a cute little touch, and I'm super happy with how it came out. So for this little pattern, I just I started off with 6 single crochets, and I increased all the way up. Let's see, 2, 4, 6 rows of 2, 4, 6 rows. I increased all the way up to 6 rows, and then I worked in the back loop. Yeah, in the back loop only half double crochets all the way around to give this little lip here. And then I glued on his trash lid onto his head with some either a glue gun, I can't remember, either glue gun, no, it was Beacon's Fabri-Tac glue. And let's see, for his eyebrows, I had to stitch on the ends and in the middle, and then I glued in the middle to kind of place the arches here. And let's see, what else can I say about him? For his trash can, I did not follow the pattern. I just basically, because she works her pattern in increments of 9, and I wasn't really comfortable with that. So I did the body as according to pattern. But for the trash can, I just did my own thing. I started off with 6 in the magic circle, worked my way up to, let's see, looks like 4 rows, because that's what fit my particular Oscar the Grouch. And then worked my way up to whatever size fit him. And I think that's it. One more thing about Oscar, for the head, I worked it according to pattern, except for the head part. I worked 1 more additional row so that it's a little bit taller, because when I first worked him up, I thought his head was a little like a UFO saucer kind of shape, a little too flat than I'd like, and I wanted him just a little bit more plump, so I added 1 more row just to give him a little bit more of a height, and I liked it much better. So, but I'm super happy with how he came out. Look at how cute, and his body is removable, even though if he looks like a little rattle, as Miko calls him. Oh no, she called him a mushroom.
A fuzzy, moldy mushroom.
A fuzzy, moldy green mushroom, but he's oh so cute. So stinking cute. My last finished object is, this is Olaf, and he comes from Disney's Frozen movie. So for this little guy, I followed a YouTube tutorial by Make a Paper Boat. I used Premier Basics in the color white and Premier Everyday Worsted in the color chocolate. I used a 3.5mm hook and a 2.25mm hook for his nose. Everything else I used a 3.5mm hook. With a 4-weight yarn and a 3.5mm hook, he came out to be approximately 4 inches tall. I also used 6mm and 7mm safety eyes. The 3 buttons are the 6mm and the eyes are the 7mm. I used a brown pipe cleaner for his arms, so you can actually move it like this, which I thought was pretty cute. So hopefully an older child gets this, because it's got wire in it. I don't usually like to include wire in my amigurumi, but for this particular one, it worked. I don't know if yarn would quite work for his twiggy arms. And then I used black embroidery floss for his eyebrows here, and I only used 3 out of the 6 strands. And then for his nose, I used the whole embroidery floss and the smaller hook size. So in the original pattern, the designer has you cinch in the waist here between the bottom and the middle section, but I didn't do that. Instead, I opted to crochet in the front loops only to kind of try and get it to work outwards and give it this little bulgy look. But if you want, you can also follow her tutorial, and she has you weave in a piece of just scrap yarn in and out of these stitches here around the waist and cinch it up to kind of emphasize this middle section bulge, but I didn't do that. Also for Olaf, I worked him in one piece. So she has you work the bottom piece here separately from the head, but I just worked it all into one piece. And he came out super cute. This is in comparison to my hand. And isn't he so adorable? He may look like an ordinary snowman if you haven't watched the movie, but he's got a little essence of Olaf in there. So there's a little bit of shaping in his head to try and get the Olaf head look, and his little 3 hairs. So these are, this is yarn. This is not pipe cleaner like the arms here, but super happy. So this week I started a new project, and it is an active whip, not a UFO. And this is Candy Girl by Amalu Designs, and I use Lion Brand basic stitch and a 3.5mm hook. And so far I have her body from her I guess neck on down, and also her arms, and that's all that I have so far. And I intend to work her up in one piece. So I'm going to crochet the arms in as I work my way up towards her neck, and then continue on to her head. And I've made this pattern quite a few times actually. I think I've made 2 that I've given away to family members of mine, little kitties in my family. And then I have one that I keep in my collection, and you might notice, recognize her from my my banner across my YouTube channel, and also in the little profile pic for this YouTube channel. So this is what I'm working towards, making another similar doll. And she is super cute. She's one of my favorite doll patterns that I like to work with. And so for this particular pattern, I modified it to give it a different look, and I love the way that it came out. Now this I did a long time ago, so I can't tell you what yarns I've used or where I got the pattern for certain things, but this is the same pattern, and I modified it to make a little witch girl. And so I gave her some boots. I modified it according to what I envisioned it in my mind. So I gave her super tall boots, I laced it up, gave her little ruffles around here. I gave her striped leggings and her little ruffles. I'm super happy with how she came out. She also has little ruffles here around her wrists. And her hair is slightly different. So for the original pattern, the designer has you make little space buns and embellish it with these ribbons. But I wanted something simple and something low, so I gave her like these little curly cues, like ponytail, because I knew I wanted to make a hat to go on her. Now, this hat apparently, obviously, is not part of the pattern because the pattern is not originally a witch. And I'm so sorry, I can't tell you where I got this witchy hat pattern from. I wish I knew because I would love to make her again. And I have to do a bit of research, but if I ever do research and figure out where I got this from, I will include it in the description box down below. I doubt it, but yeah, I'm just super happy. I love when I see makers make different makes from the same pattern, and I just love how they come out so different. That's why I love watching YouTube videos and seeing how everybody puts their own personal spin on their makes, and I just love that. So yeah, if you have a particular pattern that you like, change up the colors, change up the theme, and you come up with a totally different looking doll. This is, you know, the power of hand making. You can modify the patterns according to how you envision, and it's so cool. But I'm off to making another one, and that's my active whip. So that's all that I have for you this week. I do want to mention that all of my mini amigurumis that I've been cranking out lately are for Crystal from the Chronically Crocheting channel here on YouTube. And she wants to be a yarn fairy this Halloween. She's going to be traveling over to see her grandkids, and she's going to spend some quality time with her family. And the grandkids asked her what is she going to be for Halloween this year, and she says, wouldn't it be nice if I could be a yarn fairy, and instead of giving treats, she'll be giving these little mini amigurumis, and she'd be wearing like this crossbody bags with filled with these little amigurumis, and she could just bust one out and do her little fairy wand trick and pop out a little yarn amigurumi. And I just thought that that was so sweet and such a great idea. I mean, if I were a little kid, I'd be ecstatic to receive any yarn toy in my little trick-or-treat bucket. I would love to be there to see their excitement and their faces when they see the little yarn toys. It's a nice break from just candy, same old candy. It's something different, so I'm excited for them, and I'm excited for Crystal, who's going to be the Halloween yarn fairy this year. So I busted out a USPS flat rate box, and it's looking pretty tight. Babe, can you pass me that box over there, please? So this is what I have so far, unless I get a bigger box. Oh, can you hand me those two, please? And whatever I can fit in here is what's going to Crystal, but there is a ton of this.
There's a ton of them.
So yeah, I'm not sure how many more mini amigurumis I can crank out to fit in here, but look, it's almost at the very tippy top. So they're either gonna have to be little tiny ones that I started off with that can fit in the palm of my hand when I close it, or I'm just gonna have to slow it down and call it done and send it over to Crystal. And Crystal, I'm so sorry, but this is gonna take you a while. If you want to go over all of this, it's gonna take you a while, and I'm so sorry. Thanks for joining us and watching and supporting our channel. Until next video, have a fun crafty week. Bye.
Bye.